Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahawashi, Ba'Hashem Rakak B'dash. And I want to say Shalom to Yakim Nakwath out there pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. And this one's inspired by the Apostle Gabar, the beloved Apostle Gabar. And he made a lesson today, or it might have not been today, I believe it was maybe yesterday or it's hard to tell sometimes. I don't always check the date, and sometimes I'll recommend you videos that are a little bit later. I think it might have been from the past few days, and roughly quoting the title, something along the lines of the bitterness of the Bible. And it was one of those things talking about going in on topics that Christians don't usually like to talk about, right? Basically, how the Lord created good and evil. And there was a segment towards the earlier part of that lesson, and I believe he had some of the, I don't remember, it was the Bishop of Connecticut. I know he had, for a fact, he had Elder Yashar Wamba out of the GMS Dallas camp, and he had another brother, I can't remember his title or where he was from, and then he also had the Apostle Aramalov, right, the beloved Apostle Aramalov as well. And it was towards the earlier part. I think it was before. I think it was just because I believe the first person that joined in, the first brother was Elder Yashar Wamba out of the GMS Dallas camp, and I think it was during that segment that it was brought out. But basically, this lesson, was inspired to that lesson, and this lesson is titled "Maintaining a Correct Balance." Okay, maintaining a correct balance. And one of the scriptures that they mentioned was, of course, Proverbs 11:1, and that's really the groundwork. That's the framework. All right, Slakia, that motherfucker with the loudest vehicle car in the possible. But this the Proverbs 11:1 is really the groundwork, the framework that this lesson is based upon, right? As well with Job 31:6 as well. But Proverbs 11:1 is the script. I was half asleep, actually, as a matter of fact. And it woke me out of my sleep. Because what I was doing is I sleep like shit a lot of the time. And I was up late, like 7 a.m. So I sometimes sleep late. And I saw the time. I said, I should probably go ahead and get up. But I was just tired. I wanted to lay back and catch a few more Z's, or at least be in an in-between state, just like kind of like wind down, my eyes closed. So, I woke up, put a lesson on, put it under the pillow, all right, and just kind of like dozed off a little bit more. And I remember I was kind of like in between out, and I remember when the part came on, I keep a stack of sticky notes and a pen in my bedside drawer. And when that part came on, when they were going into Proverbs 11:1, I woke up, dug through the drawer, grabbed my sticky note, because it was right then and there that the Holy Spirit got on me while I was damn near asleep, which is hilarious. It's not really hilarious, but it's hilarious to show you that, like, it really don't matter if you're awake or asleep, that if the Holy Spirit's going to hop on you, it's going to hop on you. Because I was asleep, man. Basically, I was, like, zoning out. I was like, man, I'm fucking drained. I was like, 90% out, 10% there. And that happened, and I just woke up right about my sleep, grabbed the pen, grabbed the paper, said, there's the lesson. And then after that, I kind of nodded off a little bit more. But it was kind of hard, too. I ended up waking up because, the lesson was getting fire. And I just said, let me just wake up and listen to this lesson because it's heavy. And Proverbs 11:1 is the meat for that. So here it is. It says, a false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just way is his delight. So this is simple. This is dealing with balance, all right, a scale, if you will. You don't want to have anything that's going either too far left or too far right, all right? Because if you go too far right, you become what is known as over-righteous, okay? Because you can't really go too far right like that. You're not in this society, all right? I mean, you can be righteous, but there's a point where you try to go overboard, and you're actually, what you think you're being righteous, but you're actually wickedness. You're actually living in wickedness, all right? It's the same thing. You don't want to go left at all right? But you want to be in the middle, leaning towards, good, okay? You want to be well-grounded, all right, well-rounded. You don't want to be, you want to, again, have a lean towards righteous, but you don't want to be on the far scale of, you can even be, if you really want to get down to it, you can be on the further scale of righteous, but you don't want to, it's a fine line making sure you don't tip that scale, okay? You don't want to tip that scale, because the people that tip the scale, they think they're still righteous, but they're not. They've gone so far righteous, they're righteous, and they got more righteous and more righteous, and then they got to a point where really they were doing good, but their mind deceived them, and that's when you get these, too deep Israelites. They think that, I don't even do anything. I just sit in the room and meditate all day, and I hover, right? Like the apostles always, you're so deep. You do what? You just sit in the room, with crossed feet, just meditating, hovering in the air, right? Because you're just so above us all, right? And you got individuals that are like that, and Bishop Nathaniel's a great example of that, where, they're always with the law. You got to keep every single law. Well, we can't keep every law perfect, okay? And that's why we have the grace and the mercy of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, all right? And the liberal forgiveness and help supplied by Yahweh Shem Yahushai, right? So you don't want to be too far anything, okay? Because then you start getting into a weird, it's like a weird extreme that's not even natural. It's not even, and wickedness isn't natural like that, but you have the regular people that are out there that are wicked, right? And you see them going day to day on a regular day base, Walmart, shopping, wherever you happen to do. These are regular wicked people. And then you have the people that are on the far side of the wicked, right? And these are the people that directly come against the truth. All right, no, fuck you and the apostles and you motherfuckers, you Hebrew Israelites, fuck you and the Israelite. They're very evil. And then you have the ones that tip the scale, and they go out and, these are the motherfuckers that are like chopping up kittens in their basement and like, jerking off the dead bodies and shit. They're completely loony. All right, they've lost it. All right, and not that there's any good level of wicked, but you see what I'm saying with the scale of things. And that happens on the right side just as it happens with that left hand. On the bad side, it happens with the right as well. You have those guys that are a little bit righteous. They're like, they're newer. They just came in, and they're learning righteousness. Then you have people that have been in it for years. All right. Then you have the people that are like Apostle Gabar and Apostle Har, very, very, very righteous individuals. But then you have the people that pursue righteousness so much where they end up bugging the fuck out. It makes them nuts. They think that like, I never jerk off because I got to keep my seed within my penis because that's my life essence. If I let that out of me, it's gonna pollute. It's gonna be spilled upon the ground, and I'm gonna be polluted. It's the same reason that I wear these dreadlocks, because these dreadlocks actually tether me to the earth and connect me deeper with the force that is God, the Mother God. By the way, like, what the fuck are you talking, man? You've gone so like you were so enamored with righteousness and like doing what's right and like zealousness and like wanting to do right and wanting to understand the world and God that you fucking bugged out, man. You went crazy. All right, you went crazy. And on that high end of the scale, really he's wicked because of what he does. But there's Bishop Nathaniel, and he's always talking about the law, the statutes, and the commandments. Like that's what's gonna that's what's gonna save you or something. And there's countless scriptures that let you know that it's not about what you do. All right, it's about who you are. You're either the elect or you're not. All right, and if you're the elect, you're shit out of luck and fucked. All right, and no, there's no such thing as luck, but that saying, shit out of luck. All right, it means you're out of help. All right, you're not gonna get any help, and you are gonna be without help. All right, you are gonna be without help if in that situation, because the Lord's not gonna help you. But that's one thing. You want to stay on the higher side of righteousness to the middle ground, all right? And I'm not saying don't be a underachiever, like, I'm going to stay on the middle. But, there's some individuals that are going to be, they're going to be more righteous, all right? They're going to be more faithful, okay? And it's better to be in that middle area, not necessarily the middle ground, because there really is no middle. If you really want to get down to on the Lord's scale, there really is no middle. You're either in the bad or you're in the good. All right, there's no real middle ground like a normal scale where they're even. There's no really even level in the middle. It's you're either good leaning or bad leaning. All right, either righteous leaning or wicked leaning. Okay, what do you mean righteous leaning? Well, there's some evil people out there that are righteous leaning. Okay, for example, when we first came into the truth, okay, we were righteous leaning. Okay, we weren't wickedness leaning. I mean, we were in wickedness, but we were leaning towards righteousness. All right, and that's all through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai. We were acceptive to this knowledge, this truth, and this understanding. Okay, we were able to get it. Now, a wicked leaning person would not be interested in that because they're leaning more towards wickedness. They're leaning towards doing their own lust. Nah, they're not going to go maybe as far as the level of, oh, you're saying, oh, fuck the apostles. They're a bunch of fucking assholes and, they touch little girls. All these things, because that's what the real deep enemies do. That's your vocab Malones, your brother Polites, all right, and so on and so forth. Those are your real enemies. They're not to that level, but they still lean towards righteousness as in, I don't really know much about them. I don't care to know about them. I don't know what those guys are really involved in, and it's kind of hateful. I'm not going to pay attention to any of that shit because, Christianity is just a man-made religion, and I just want to do what I'm doing, and, and they probably think gay people are wrong, right? So that's and again, does that make them not, because they're wicked leaning, does that mean, no, they're still wicked, all right? But there's different levels of wickedness, just like there's different levels of righteousness, right? And in this, we need to make sure that we're on the righteous leaning side. We need to make sure that even on that righteous side, there's a scale, okay? And you want to have it be a right balance, okay? You don't want to go too overboard where, you start being over righteous and you become the queer killer, all right? And you go out and you start, hacking up all these homosexuals out here because then you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. You don't want to do that, okay? But you also don't want to be the person that, oh, I know I'm an Israelite. Yep, I know I'm an Israelite. Well, what are you going to do about it? I know I'm an Israelite. That's good enough for me, man. Right? And really, that's like the lowest level of righteous leaning you can. I mean, that's really almost teetering towards the wickedness. But they have a zeal, okay, but not according to knowledge. They have that, like, inclination, but really their lusts are somewhere else, right? Slacky, bear with me. Slacky for that. Phlegm was bothering the hell out of me. Let me grab a drink. But yeah, man, there's just different levels, all right? And those that are going to get it are going to get it, and those that aren't. So you're going to have people, that like when they first come in, they're on the righteous spectrum. They're not wicked. I mean, they're putting off the wickedness. So in that action of putting off the wickedness, they're more, righteous leaning, okay? But there are people that, and again, it's a constant balance because you don't want to be in a situation where you're in this truth and you walk after your own lusts and you end up getting into a situation where here it was, you were righteous leaning, but then because you start thinking these things in your mind or whatever, you start turning to the left again, right? That's not something you want to do. So again, Proverbs 1:11, a false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. And again, the Lord created all things. That's what one of the big things that was, I thought that motherfucker was going to wipe out. They have one of those guys on those scooters. He came here hauling ass, man. He was all the way leaning to the left on his shit. I thought, oh, man, he's going to wipe out. Guess not, though. I would have laughed if he did. But, anyway, yeah, but that's what that lesson was about, is that, the Lord creates, has a balance, okay? And part of that is good and evil, man. That's part of the balance in itself is good and evil. Without evil, you don't have good. And without good, you don't have evil, right? Now, almost every movie has what is called a protagonist. That's usually the good guy. And the antagonist, which is the bad guy. Sometimes they flip it and the protagonist is a bad guy and the antagonist is a good guy. Right, and that's coming from the opposite spectrum. You're getting the villain's side of the story. In that case, they would be the protagonist. They're the main person that's being focused on in the story is the protagonist. Antagonist is something that they're doing along the lines to try to stop them up. And the Lord created protagonist and antagonist, all right? The Lord's, he's got the the Israelites, all right, and then he's got the nations. And then amongst those, he even has protagonists and antagonists. Primarily, this is the story of Jacob and Esau, okay? This is primarily the story of Jacob and Esau. It's not the story of the Moabites or the Hamites or the Ishmaelites. All right, those are all background characters. All right, those are what I like to refer to as extras. Okay, if you know about movies, extras are like the people in the background. Like, you know, you have the protagonist and the antagonist having a fight in the middle of the store. Well, the cashier that's running in the background, that's just an extra, right? They don't get paid that much. Usually like $50 to $100, 200 maybe sometimes in the max, and they don't. They're just there for filler, all right, to make it look like a real environment. And that's what all the nations are. They're not the focus, all right? The focus is on Jacob and Esau, okay? And that, you know, and you have the director, all right, the Lord, all right, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And you also have a co-director, all right, which is, I don't even like to consider him as that. Really, he would be like, he's basically like film crew, all right, Satan, all right, Satan's film crew. And he does what the director wants him to do, okay? He does what the director wants him to do. So that's why I stripped that co-director, because really he don't even co-direct, okay? It's all through the Lord. I mean, in some ways, Satan's like a co-director, but co-director, they don't really have the ultimate authority. They might suggest some things or have some of their own ideas, but really it's got to be passed to the main director first, because they're only, you know, they're the co-director. They're not the director, they're the co-director, right? So, yes and no, but I don't like even giving him that much credit, because really he's more like film crew, film staff for the director. And they say, you want it this way? No, a little bit more to the left. This way? A little too far to the left. Put it a little bit more right and pan it upwards a little bit, all right? We want to make sure we're getting the top of the skyline, all right? We're getting a little bit more too straight. We want to pan it from the top down to the bottom of the street. Right now, we're just above street level. We want to make it a little bit higher than street level, and then we'll pan down to the street, and it'll be a good cinematographic shot. Okay. What if we did that, but I also do a smooth zoom while we're doing it? Yeah, go ahead. That'll be great, right? But they have to ask permission from the director, right? It's the director's idea. It's the director's story, okay? And that's how it is with Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and Satan. Satan can't do anything on his own, all right? Because if Satan's moving that camera a little bit to the left, Lord, hey, no, move it to the right, okay? That's what he did with Job. He said, look, you can do this, but don't kill him. Okay, so yeah, you can go ahead. I'm a give over control of him for this time being of what happens to him, but you cannot kill him. Okay, and touch his flesh, but don't kill him. Okay, so yeah, man, and that's all part of the Lord's balance. Okay, so and we're part of that balance. Okay, we're part of that balance as well. You don't want to be too far. All right, too far on the deep end with anything. Right. So anyway, hopefully it's explanatory enough. Those that can get it, they'll get it. Hopefully I'm explaining myself, good enough. But let's get 31:6. This is Job 31:6. Speaking of Job, it says, "Let me be weighed in an even balance, that Yahweh may know mine integrity." So this is a plea by Job, and you want to be weighed in an even balance. Okay, that's something you should you could pray to the Lord about. I'm not going to say necessarily you should, all right, because what you should pray about is unique to yourself, all right? You know what you should pray about. But one thing that you can pray about is making sure that, to maintain order, okay? There's another scripture. Do we have that one? I don't, but we all know the scripture for the most part. Let everything be done decently in order. Well, order is what? Part of that balance, okay? It's part of that balance. And there's a lot of individuals that don't have balance, all right? And without balance, you can't have order, and without order, you won't have balance, okay? So it says, let me be weighed in an even balance, that Yahweh may know mine integrity. Let's go ahead and get that in the, whatever shows up, the NRSV. That's fine. I'm going to grab another drink while we're at it. It says, let me be weighed in a just balance, and let Yahweh know my integrity. I guess it's straightforward enough. Bear with me. But let's see what else we got. And I still got a bone to pick with the easy-to-read version after that bullshit that it said one time. It said some dumb shit. It was clearly an Edomite that wrote that, because it was like something completely different. And they had it where it was damn near, it was basically going off. They were making the scripture go off, and it pissed me off. Let's try the Christian Standard. Weigh me on accurate scales. Amp. Let's try the Amp regular version, not the classic. I mean, yeah, this is fine. Job 31:6 in the Amp Bible, it says, "Oh, let him weigh me with accurate scales, and let Yahweh know my integrity." So you want to be rightfully judged, right? You want the Lord to rightfully, judge you, rightfully, have an even balance when He weighs you, right? Not having a hatred towards you, because then obviously it's gonna, be a just balance. And also, if you're favoritized, okay, it might. Why were you really picked? All right, it really is better to be favoritized by the Lord, and it's a good thing. But what he's saying there is, judge righteously. All right, judge righteous judgment, as the scriptures say. He wants to be judged in a righteous judgment type of way. Just plainly. Okay, we want to be judged in that same way as, with a good scale. Because if it was teetering in the wrong direction, well, you could end up being the wicked, right? It's like, for example, imagine if you went to a store, and the store, if you're buying produce, it's weighed by weight, obvious, weighed by weight, duh. It's charged by weight, all right, price per pound and shit. Same with meats and stuff. Well, what if you got up there and their scale already had 5 pounds on it? You don't want that. Even it out, zero it out. All right. You want to be on a just scale. All right, a right scale, an even scale. You don't want it to go up there as for some reason it got stuck at 5 pounds, and now here it was, you're buying 2 pounds of meat, and it looks like you're buying 7, right? And you're paying way more money. You don't want that. All right. That would be a false balance. Okay. It wouldn't be the right balance. So let's get, we got that, we didn't get it, but we talked about it at least. So let's go back, first of all, let's go back to the NRSV. Bear me, I had to disconnect from the Wi-Fi. I'm sitting in the parking lot, driveway in front of my house. And it kind of gets the Wi-Fi, but not enough. It just slows it down, and it keeps on bouncing forth trying to get it. So let's get Ecclesiastes 7 and 16 through 17. And it says, "Be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldst thou destroy thyself? Be not over much wicked, neither be thou foolish. Why shouldst thou die before thy time?" So you don't want to be on either spectrum of those, okay? Overly wicked, you're going to die. All right? Overly righteous, you're going to die. All right? Because being over righteous is really, that just switches over from righteousness into pride, and then that goes back into being sinful. All right? So NRSV, it says, "Do not be too righteous, and do not act too wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Do not be too wicked, and do not be a fool. Why should you die before your time?" So again, we have to maintain a even balance, an even scale. We have to maintain righteousness, all right? We have to, for lack of a better word, we have to make sure we're doing it the right way, all right? That's not the wrong way. That's not the right way. That's the wrong way. There's a song by the band Sublime. It's the wrong way. It's a good song. Let's see, wrong way lyrics. Yeah, I mean, hell, that's kind of a this song came out in 1996, and this came out in 1996, and listen to how prevalent. This is a problem today. Annie's 12 years old, and 2 more she'll be a whore. No one ever told her it's the wrong way, right? Annie's 12 years old, and 2 more she'll be a whore. No one ever told her it's the wrong way. That cigarette passed between her lips, but I'm staring at her tits. It's the wrong way. Yeah, I'm gonna have to leave that song up. It's a good song, man. I'm not the biggest fan of I won't say I'm the biggest fan of Sublime, but Sublime's a really fucking good band. As far as you get with white guys, Brad might have been a Jake. He might have been a Jake. Honestly, he might have been. He might have been an Edomite. I don't think he was though, because and like I said, I'm a Benjamite, so you know we made the reggae music, man. Right? So I'll give him a pass. That white boy can groove. So let's get I'd be very surprised if he wasn't a Jake, because I tell you what, some of the other people in the band might not have been, but I don't know, whoever was writing the songs or writing the music, and I bet if we go here, it'd be lyrics and song written by Brad. Let me see. Sublime. We're gonna go off on a tangent real quick. Sublime band. Wrong way. You brothers and sisters, you check that song out after the lesson. It's a cool song. Santeria, What I Got. Those are very big. I don't practice Santeria. I ain't got no crystal ball. Where are we here? Discography. Where's the discography? Here it is. I believe it was Wrong Way it would have been on their Sublime album. Let's see, the music and composition. Track listing. Yeah. What I got? Bradley. Wrong Way. Wrong Way doesn't say who wrote it. Some of these people, are these other band members? Some of their music was written by Brad. Some of it was not. It looks like some of these were written by other people. All right, but Bradley Noel was the main guy. Matter of fact, we can go and see what was his early life. What's his father? If it says, sometimes it'll tell you. Let's see. Bradley Noel, or Noel ethnicity. Yep, sure shit. He was Scottish, Irish, and Mexican. Yeah, that's a Jake. That's a Jake. All right. So, anyway, back to the lesson. All right, because I was curious, but yeah, Scottish, Mexican, and Irish, depending on who's who. Yeah, that guy was a Jake for sure. Which would explain a lot why his music was so good. But like, a lot of white people try to be like, oh yeah, see, we can make good music. But everybody you have, Eminem, well, it's a Jake. Okay, Bradley, that's a Jake. Just because you look white, don't mean you are right. Just because you look white, don't mean you ain't. Just because you look white, don't mean you are white. God damn. All right, that's why skin color isn't a good definitive factor. All right, I always talk about that, and it's because white ain't a race. Okay, white's a skin color, and that can get you confused. There's white Mexican, there's brown Mexican, there's black Mexicans. All right, if you're going off of skin color, all right, so-called. All right, really nobody's black, but you know what you would call black. But they're all Mexican. But white people, they're just white. You know, they come from the land of white. Okay, they're just European. What part? Are they Irish? Are they Scottish? Are they from the not the Virgin Islands? Are they from the Isle of Man? All right. Are they from what are they? All right. What are they? Are they Scousers? All right. Are they regular just Englishmen? Right. You know, that's why you need to, who are you? Because you go back and we're just white. White is just a color, man, and you ain't that color. First of all, you're pinkish red. So where are you from? The land of Whitea? The Whitopia? I've never heard of it. So anyway, but again, you don't want to be walking in the wrong way, as we were talking in that song. Okay, you want to be doing what's right. But again, if you keep on trying to, I don't want to say if you, because if you keep on pursuing righteousness and doing it as righteousness, you'll be fine. But some people try to add extra shit in, or they try to like, I can't really explain what it is that they try to do, because Lord one, I never do that shit. It's just not me. They try to add extra shit in to make themselves seem more right. And I think it really stems from pride. I think they want to be seen as like more, like super righteous, like a super Israelite. And with that, they ended up coming with some bugged out shit. I don't really know. They just, like that one guy that he was trying to, basically that guy was over righteous. He thought, here's a good example. You get too over righteous, you'll think you're Yahweh Shai, right? Or you'll think you're King David, right? Mind you, the guy, I don't want to just call him the guy, but the individual that was King David, all right, reincarnated back, all right, whose name was, I don't know his full name, but he was, as the apostles say, was affectionately called, his name was Mo, all right, at One West. He never stated that he was King David, but it's just everybody knew it, okay? So, yeah, man, it's someone's not going to, I'm King David. Did you know I'm King David? Did you know I'm King David? No, you're not. But yeah, so let's move on to Proverbs. .30 and verse 8. Turn on the AC here. Getting hot, man. I don't know how it is down in those other states, but Vegas is fucking heating up again. It was 104 or some shit today. It's still hot. It's nighttime and it's still hot, man. I don't even know what temperature it is right now, but not good. Proverbs, I'd guess like 98. But Proverbs, and it's midnight, so midnight and it's 98. Ridiculous. So Proverbs 30 and 8, it says, "Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give it now. Again, this is a plea. All right, unto the Lord. All right, remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me." So the big part here is give me neither poverty nor riches. You want to know that? That's maintaining a correct balance. Okay, and it should say in verse 9. Yeah, it says, "Lest I be full and deny." You got abundance of food. You're like, oh yeah, I provided all the food for myself, it's, and, you deny the Lord, you get proud. It says, "And say, who is the Lord? Or, lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my power in vain." And you don't want to be that level either. Now, stealing food isn't as wicked as just stealing. I'm not going to commend it, all right? I'm not going to condone it. But in a grand scale of things, it carried a lighter offense. All right, in the eyes of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, because it's different. All right, it's different. There's, like, for example, it says, if a man be caught stealing, all right, basically for food, all right, you shouldn't abhor him. All right, but if he is caught, that he has to pay back sevenfold, I believe, roughly paraphrasing. If brother wants to put up the scripture, you can. But there's no accommodations made for people that aren't stealing food. They're just stealing a livestock or some oxen just to have or something. There's not those accommodations. Okay, a hungry man steals not because he wants to steal, but because he needs to eat. So it carries a different offense with the Lord. Is it still going off? Yes, you shouldn't be doing it, but the Lord understands that one more than you stole a fucking football because you want to throw it in the yard with your buddy. That's just stupid. Or some vanity item. I stole a pair of Nikes. I stole a pair of Nikes. It's stupid. Okay? The Lord's just going to condemn you for that. Right? Not necessarily. I mean, it is sin, so you could be put to death for that by him. But if you were caught by the worldly judges, it wouldn't be death. You just have to pay that person back. But if you keep on doing wickedness like that, the Lord kills you. All right? Sin kills you, man. That's what kills individuals. Another example for showing you moderation. We're going to go to the Apocrypha for this, so I got to change websites. And this is going to be in Sirach 31. And 27. And it says, "Wine is as good as life to a man, if it be drunk moderately." You get a little bit of drink, right? It's feel all right, okay? What life is then to a man that is without drink? For it was made to make men glad. But notice moderation, if it be drunk moderately. Because it says wine is as good as life to a man if it be drunk moderately. You have those those things where it's the same thing with cannabis, right? Because you can use cannabis, all right, to a level, to a degree, but you don't want to become a pothead, right? The apostles already mentioned it. The brothers mentioned it. Weed is not unlawful, okay? Weed is not unlawful. Now, I would recommend not smoking it just to smoke it, right? Because, like, we talked about that the other day. I mean, you can use edibles and stuff like that, but it's the same thing. You use it every once in a while. You want to, relax, or, try to get some sleep, or, real stressed out or something, using it medicinally to wind down or something like that. That's fine. But if you do it too much, what do you become? You become a pothead. Okay? A weed, hey, man. Yeah, that's something more you do at home. You don't need to be, taking an edible and then, like, walking out on town, And I mean, if you have pain, that's different. If you have, like, weed can be helpful with anxiety, too. If you're using it as that and you're walking around that town, that's fine. But what I'm saying is you don't need to get... Same thing with liquor, man. You don't need to be going and getting loaded up as you can and then launching yourself out into public. It's just, First of all, you don't want to... Those things open you up to spirits, and you don't want to... You want to be in a right place. You don't want to be out with a bunch of spirits around you when you're already more susceptible to spirit. You don't want to do that. But it's the same thing with alcohol. If you, occasionally use some cannabis, or maybe you have to use it every night because that's the only way you can go to sleep. You have insomnia, or maybe you have pain or something like that and you have to take it every day. That's fine. But you're taking as much as is needed as is sufficient. All right? You're not taking as much as you need just to possibly get as fucking blitzed as possible. It's the same thing with alcohol, man. Moderation, right? Wine is good as life to a man if it be drunk moderately. But what if you don't drink it moderately? You're going to be fucking throwing up, puking, getting the spins, shitting yourself, pissing yourself, right? You're going to be throwing it up in the toilet, right? You're going to feel like shit, and you're going to get yourself into trouble. A lot of people end up getting arrested all drunk. Hey, fuck you, man. It's stupid, right? Moderation, okay? Maintaining a correct balance. Maintaining a correct balance. And then don't say, can I just do a little bit of heroin? No, that's different, man. That's wicked, okay? That's wicked. Now, what heroin comes from, opium, all right, first of all, there's no legal way to get it save a prescription of, like, Oxycontin. And again, if you're prescribed that, again, those are witchcrafts that the Esau has made. But I mean, if you're in pain like that and you can't find anything else that helps, and you have to take an Oxycontin or something, I took it's been almost a year now since I took one, but a Vicodin. I took a Vicodin. Oh no, it was a Percocet, because I had some teeth removed. A substantial amount of teeth removed, and the place I went to, they didn't hardly give me nothing for it. They were like, just take ibuprofen and Tylenol, and man, let me tell you, that shit was some rough shit, right? So I had to go to the ER, and they ended up giving me a bottle of Oxycontins. I didn't use those at all. And then they gave me in the place, they gave me a Percocet, and I took it because, again, the Lord's not gonna fault you, because it's the same thing. If your leg got blown off, and you're sitting in bed, would you like a morphine drip, an IV drip? You're gonna probably want to take that. Okay, you're not using it for wickedness. You're using it, because again, you're feeling pain. The Lord understands that. But these people using heroin, you're not using it for that. You're using heroin to just get fucking retarded. Okay, and that's different. There's people that might have back issues where if that's something that helps, I mean, it'd be better to find something more herbal. If you could, like, have marijuana, all right, and that would help. That'd be better. And I mean, opium in its pure self would be better, because opium and cannabis are nature's. All right, the Lord put them in the earth for a reason. They're the earth's, and really the Lord's, most powerful and potent pain relievers. Okay, but with that, they have the potentiality to be abused. Okay, and people just want to get as loaded as possible off of them as they possibly can. And when you use cannabis, obviously you're going to get a little high. All right, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I mean, it's the tetrahydrocannabinol that's in it. It's an effect that's going to have it. It's the same thing when you drink liquor. It's going to put Slocky, I forgot to tap the phone and it went dim, and it just, when it goes dim like that, blacks out, it just cuts the recording off. But yeah, I mean, those, again, you can't really cultivate opium like that. Highly illegal. You will go to prison for that. But those are some of the Lord's most potent painkillers that he has, right? Is cannabis and opium. And used rightly, all right, they're fine, but people don't use them rightly. They take, cannabis, and they take it in, instead of the amount that you'd get in like a joint, which is like probably like 10 milligrams or something like that. Like, I don't know necessarily. And like I said, I know the Apostle Dahar said, technically if you have a medical condition, smoking it is, fine. I would recommend smoking's not 100% good for you. I'd recommend, not that I disagree with the Apostle, I mean, he was talking about the chalice and stuff that the Rastafarians smoke. That's pretty much what helps with the cataracts. But with the, if you're using it on a regular basis, not cataract, I'd recommend getting it in like a butter or a oil or something like that, and not necessarily, because smoking is damaging on the lungs regardless. But if it's helping your cataracts or something, it's better to have to be prescribed a joint to smoke than having to get Esau to go in there and cut. Have you ever seen that shit? It's fucking horrible. I wouldn't even recommend it, actually. As a matter of fact, I would say, all right, if you haven't seen it, I'd recommend go. If you're curious, go and look up cataract surgery, because that's some gruesome shit, man. And if they no, my dad did something else. Never mind. I was gonna say that. Matter of fact, they fucked my dad. No, my dad was going for LASIK. No, yeah, LASIK or something. No, was it? He was getting something. So one of those surgeries for his eyes. I don't think it was cataracts. And the guy left the laser on too much, and it was after that my dad started experiencing neurological disorders. Now, at the end of the day, that's his judgment, but still, I won't. I mean, no. You're beaming a fucking laser in your... First of all, they say, keep lasers out of your eye, and then what do? They fucking Esau goes and gets a hyper-concentrated laser and beams in your fucking eye, You'd be better off, taking a hit or two from the joint or something like that in a medical... Even, like I said, the Apostle Dahar said it. Then fucking having them laser cut something out of your eye. Fuck that, man. Hell nah. All right, I'd rather just deal with the cataract. Shit, you're fucking cutting out of your... And I think there's like a high rate of issues for cataract surgery. Or Esau's not going to tell you. If you look up, no, they all go well. Sure. I'm sure they do, because you're not going to release that type of information. But anyway, what I was saying was that, just like opium and stuff like that, again, back in the day, you'd probably brew it into a tea for someone that was really, maybe sick or dying. Maybe extreme, maybe they broke a bone or something like that, you would have it like that. But people don't use it for that. They use it to get as high as possible. Same thing with the dispensaries, you go there and the shit that they have, and like I said, I haven't been there in years. But because I try not to just go instantly to, even though it's herbal, I try not to go instantly. Now, like I said, I'm not saying I wouldn't use cannabis. I've pondered it for like sleeping and stuff, because I have real bad insomnia and sleeping problems and shit. But it's not what it's not going to be instantly my cure-all. I'm not going to reach for it. Would I eventually maybe try it out again? Maybe. But the problem is that when you go to the dispensary, I mean, you can get normal ones, but this is where it becomes a problem. If you use, back in the day, all right, for example, if you were using cannabis bud, all right, that people smoke, back in the day, it used to be like, 6, 5, 4, 8% for the good, like Cali Sensimilia, as they would say, the Sensimilia, right? The Sensi bud, right? It would, the red hairs, they used to call it back in the day. 9, 10%, and that was it. You get bud now, it's 30, 40, 50%, and that wasn't enough for people. They have these things called oil and concentrates, and back, I remember when those came out when I was still smoking, and dabs, wax, right, butter. That shit's crazy. That shit's like 98, 80% THC. You smoke one of those and it feels like you fucking smoked 50 joints. It's insane. And that's again, is that maintaining a correct balance? No. All right? The fuck that shit, man. It's crazy. Okay? And I'm sure it has its applications. You could use the dot of that in a batch of brownies or something like that maybe, but you could just use bud for that. I mean, technically, if you use the wax, it won't have as much of a flavor, I'm sure. But I don't know. I've never had wax edibles. I've only had it made with regular weed butter. That was way back in the day, and you can tell there's weed in it because it tastes weedy. It tastes very herbal. But the thing is that they've concentrated these things. All right, the same thing, opium and its natural thing. Back in the day, now it's illegal to cultivate and stuff like that. But theoretically, back in the old days, if you broke your leg, it's not wicked to, have opium tea or something like that because you're using it for pain. But they mixed it up and they put all these chemicals in it and they made it heroin. You fucking slam it into your arm, and that wasn't enough for people, wasn't strong enough. And they made Esau put fentanyl together, right? That's way off the deep end, man. That's way off the deep end, right? So again, you can take something fine, okay, and you can make it bad, okay, because you're not maintaining that correct balance, okay? And substances are one of those things that again, everybody knows that because people partied back in the day, you take one edible, you're fine. Take 5 of those motherfuckers, see if you're fine again. No, you're going to, what's called greening out, okay? And you're going to be sick, throwing up in the fucking bathroom, and you're going to get sweaty and hot. I've had it happen before. And it was when I was back in the day when I was going to cess. I smoked was smoking, I can't remember if it was blunts or what I think we were just taking bong hits. And then we started doing wax on top of it, man. And to be fair, on top of that, I fucking popped Molly as well. So that was one of it all together. And I think also that night I took a gabapentin. It was bad. I used to, not a very good person. But that's an example of, even in the wickedness scale of partying, all right, people use drugs and whatever. Same thing. Use heroin, right? Use heroin, for example. Not to say it's a right balance, because you shouldn't be doing it at all. But a person that's a heroin addict, they know just the right amount to take. Right? If you go over that, what happens? You die. Right? You die. Okay? That's how it goes. So in everything you look, you have to maintain a correct balance. Okay? Too little gas in your car, you're going to run out. And you put, and you're going to go out. Too much gas is going to overflow, and it's just going to be a waste. Okay? You're going to have gas draining down the side of your vehicle, and it's going to be a fire hazard. Okay? It's the same thing with weather, right? You don't want it too cold, right? But you also don't want it too hot. Okay, you don't want to be in 130 degree weather, but you also don't want to be in negative 50 either. Those things will kill you. Both of those will kill you. You want something in the middle. Okay? Like a lot of people like 60 to 70 degrees. That's their go-to. Me personally, I like about 55 to 72 maybe, personally, my favorite. But yeah, man, you got too cold, people are going to complain in the house and say, hey, it's too cold. Hey, man, it's too hot in here, okay? Everything's about maintaining a correct balance, of course, in righteousness, because you go, well, I'm going to just do a little bit of heroin. No, well, that's already going off, okay? I use that example to show you that even people that are heroin addicts in their wickedness, they know what's too much and too little, because if they take too much, too little, they're not going to get their fix, man. They're not going to be all fucked up like they want to be in their wickedness. But if they take too much, they'll never have to shoot up again. I'll tell you that. So, but yeah, this is it's using alcohol right here, right? If it be drunk moderately, okay? Because it says wine is good as life to a man. But hell, if you drink too much, you be wishing for death sometimes, man. Be making all sorts of false prayers to the Lord and shit, false promises and stuff, all right? Lord, I'll never drink again, please. Goes out and drinks the next day. I personally don't drink. I'm not a drinker. I don't like the shit. I used to drink, but I credit to that some health issues that I've had in my life is probably, and I wasn't a heavy drinker, but I like to drink whiskey, and whiskey's real bad for the heart. So I think cannabis is way better than alcohol, and I don't even do that, right? You just got to think, alcohol doesn't really have that many positive effects on the body. Wine can, all right, and they say it can be good for your health in small intervals. But cannabis has a lot, it helps with cancer, helps with cataracts, it can help with anxiety, it can help with acid reflux, it can help with inflammation, all right, it can lower cortisol. I mean, there's a lot, look into it, man. There's a lot of different shit. For anybody that doesn't do it, I'm not saying go and use it, all right? Again, just putting that out there. I don't even personally use it myself, but it's not wicked to. In the right balance. So Proverbs 25 and 16, here's an example. This truth, right? This truth is awesome, all right? But when you wake up, when you're first waking up, if you try to go too overboard with it, you'll bug out, right? Proverbs 25 and 16, hast thou found honey? Eat so much as is sufficient for thee, lest thou be filled therewith and vomit it. Same thing, eating. Eat too little, you're going to starve to death. Eat too much, you're going to puke. You're going to have a stomachache. You're going to feel like shit, right? So, and that's, the truth is likened to this. Right? You have too little, man, you're going to be done if you don't have this truth. But you come in this truth and you try to bite off more of that roll than you can chew, you're going to vomit. All right. And with that, part of that vomit is, these people come in and they bite it off. And they say, ooh, a little bit of GMS. Ooh, I like that. Ooh, a little bit of IUI. Ooh, a little ISUP. Ooh, a little bit of Sarnetta. Ooh, a little bit of GOCC. Ooh. And oh, man, you fucked up now. All right. You're all fucked up in the head. You should have just stuck with GMS. All right. Or the brothers that teach and preach in the same way. Right. But you went off and you had, I wonder, well, all the information's out there. Nah, not all information is good information to have. Okay. So, and then finally, we're going to get Ecclesiastes, 3 and 1 through 7. Showing you that even another thing with balance. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and 1. And nobody can tell you what that balance is. You got to use your discernment. Okay? We're not going to be able to sit over you and moderate you. Was this enough alcohol? Well, I don't know. You might be a big boy and you might need more, Well, should I put a little bit more? Look, man. All right. Well, how many gummies should I take if they're edibles if I'm trying to go to bed? Should I just take 2 milligrams? Should I take 5? Look, that's on you and the Lord. Use your discernment. All right. He'll know if you took too much or whatever you're doing. And I don't know your motives. I don't know your motives. You don't know my motives. Nobody knows their motives. You got to use your discernment and you got to use the Lord. All right. He's there. All right. You got to utilize him. All right. He's there. I mean, he's offering help, but a lot of people don't want to utilize the help that the Lord brings. And we can't make every decision for you, man. Okay. So how I know if you should just know, man. You should just know. I can't explain it. You should just know. Okay? You just got to maintain a correct balance. If you look like you're going too crazy, all right, and you start, for example, people try to get over righteousness. We just made a lesson about that the other day. Dead Sea Scrolls. They try, I want more information, because I want to make sure, now you're bugging out. Now you're going crazy. Now you're talking about star prisons and shit. All right? Now you're fucking nutso. So you need to be careful with that. All right? Now you're talking about, can't take a poop on a Sabbath. Can't take a poop on a Sabbath. Right? Because that will require... Anyway, that whole shit was crazy. All right? If you haven't watched that lesson, man, there's a lot of information in there. A lot of false information about what these people believe in, but a lot of good information about scriptures that I brought out on, being able to rightfully, divide this truth and being able to understand what's right and what's wrong. Again, discernment's going to be a key player in this truth. All right, so I can't tell you what you should and shouldn't do other than when it's scriptural. Should I, tell my wife? Look, man, we're not here to give a relationship advice. We're not here to give alcohol advice or dosage advice. All right, we're not medical professionals like that. Some of us are gifted with herbal healing, but even with that, how much you take is, you might get in the realm of what is, you want to do. But, we could tell you, don't fucking take 5 edibles. All right. But, well, should I take 1? I don't know. You might want to take a half nibble. I don't know, man. That's between you and the Lord. You'll know if it was too much for you. You'll know if it makes you feel wrong or not right. You go and do that. Same thing with alcohol. Same thing with, well, how much should I study? Well, as much as you can. Right? If you start feeling like you're burning out and, you're not gaining any more information, maybe, step down, maybe watch some TV or something, and then come back and get recollected again. It's the same thing with you studying at the end of the day, right? Same thing with cramming for college tests. It almost never really works, all right? It's better if you would to get some information, all right? Pause, all right? Go and get yourself some food, watch a 15-minute show, come back, all right, you finish it up, all right, you're in a good headspace again, you cleared out, you got the good stuff, cleared out the junk, all right, it's like clearing the cache, essentially, all right, and then you sit back down, you can do it again, all right, and again, like I said, everything's going to be different. Personally, I do 2 to 3 hours of just pure Bible study, watching lessons or making lessons, doing something like that a day, okay, that's what I feel comfortable with. Some people feel comfortable an hour, some people want to do 5 hours. The better, all right, the more the better, okay, the more the better, if it's on you to do it, okay. But you don't also, again, a balance. You don't want to get in the state where you're watching and you're not really listening. You're just running it just to run it, okay? You're just running it just to run it, letting it run. You're not really paying attention. You're just running it to run it, okay? You don't want to do that either. So Ecclesiastes 3:1, this shows you even more of a balance. It says, to everything there is a season, and every time, and a time to every purpose under the sun. A time to be born and a time to die. That's balance. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. Again, plants are good, but if you plant them in the wrong season, they're not going to grow. It says a time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rent and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. Now that's a balance right there, right? Everything has its season. All right, the seasons are a balance. You can't have all summer, right? The plants wouldn't have time to do certain things, right? You can't have all winter. All right, nothing would grow. You can't have all harvest because what are you going to do? There's certain things that don't only grow in certain seasons, so there has to be a balance. Everything has to be in a correct balance, all right? And that's our goal, is to maintain a correct balance, okay, on a righteous level. Again, if those that take this out of context, and that's just because the Lord's not dealing with you at the end of the day. I'm gonna just do a little heroin, then I'm gonna keep it down. You're not supposed to do that shit at all, okay? Again, I use it as an idiom to show you that even the people in their wickedness know, right, what is too far, because you will die, all right? A heroin addict knows if he takes too little, he's not going to get high. He takes too much, he's going to overdose, all right? Maybe not the best example to use, because I know there's bugged out, but at the end of the day, if that's a stumbling block to you, that's just because the Lord's not dealing with you. But, even people in their wickedness know, right? For cooking, you know how much salt to add. You add too much salt, it's going to fucking taste like shit. You add too little, it's also going to taste like shit. Okay, so everything has a balance, and our goal is to maintain a correct balance. You go over, you keep on, you're righteous, all right, you're doing good, but you want to do more, and in your mind, you start deceiving yourself. Well, maybe it's in this. You're going to end up bugging out, all right? You're getting that super Hebrew spirit, and it's not going to be good for you, all right? Or on the other side of the scale, you just stop doing anything. You just become slack, all right, a dullard, all right? You're not doing anything. So that's the lesson, maintaining a correct balance. And that's our goal, is to maintain a correct balance, because, again, a false balance is an abomination to the Lord. He doesn't like it, okay? So that's where we're going to close out. Lord, when it was edifying. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. I want to say shalom to your brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring. Keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Until next one, Lord willing, shalom.